Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. We're super lucky to have a world champion with us, which is Kat Merchant and also business owner of Kaplar Fitness. So, Kat, great to have you with us today. Super, super excited.
Yeah, delighted to be on it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. And how do you feel when you get that you hear still world champion? How do you feel when you hear that?
Oh, I smile. I always smile because it's just
Yeah,
it's cool. Like, yeah,
it is cool, isn't
so,
it? I mean,
yeah,
how great is that? I mean,
yeah,
I'm
because
so privileged to speak to a world champion, so that's really good.
yeah. Well, it's nice as well because I'll be talking to people and like rugby will come up and I'll be talking and it'll either be my partner or a friend will go, "You do know she won the World Cup," and people are like, "No, she didn't say," and I'm like, "Well, of course I don't say, but no, it's
Yeah,
nice to hear it." Yeah,
yeah, you don't suddenly walk around with a banner saying,
yeah,
just to
the
let you know,
medal.
yeah,
Yeah,
you may curtsy to me and
yes,
I have my
yeah,
medal, just to let you know. By the way, it's in the car. I'll go
yeah,
and grab
yeah,
it, if that makes
yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
we're super excited today with Kat being here. So in advance, like all our guests, we give Kat 7 questions, which we just walk through, but gives Kat a bit of preparation time from that point of view. So Kat, we know that kind of you played England 58 times, scored 44 tries from that point of view. Would you just give our viewers a bit of your brief history of how you got to where you are today? That'd be lovely.
Yeah, of course. So started rugby. I'd always been a sporty kid, and I was doing gymnastics and wanted to try
Yeah.
something different. And Dad was very much a rugby fan, and he was like, "Go play rugby," and I was like, "Absolutely not. It's like big girls. I'll get hurt." And I was really skinny, and I was like, "No, I'm not
Yeah.
interested." And eventually, he sort of wore me down, made me go, and I went, and I absolutely loved it because it's
Yeah.
so transferable. Like so, the gymnastics where you've got good core strength, and we did a bit of wrestling contact, and then
Yeah.
because I'm quick as well, like obviously like just
Yeah.
born to be on the wing, so just like run
Yeah.
around like, well, this is really fun. And
Yeah.
from that moment, genuinely never looked back. And I remember very quickly, whether it was my first session or second or third,
Yeah.
I was like, I want to play for England.
Oh
And I
wow.
really did like set my
Yeah.
sight very early on that it was something that I wanted to do. So went about that. I went to a rugby academy when I was 16 years old,
Yeah.
and did trials. And one of the things that ties into leadership really is
Yeah.
my very first trials I went to, I didn't get in, and I'm so old. This was so we used to get letters as the
Yes.
selection.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get a letter, and I went up to my room and I opened it, and I saw obviously I hadn't got selected, and I hung it up on my wall, and I went, never again. Like I'm never getting another one of his letters.
Yeah.
And that was my like inspiration. And from that moment, went
Yeah.
forward and went on obviously to have a successful
Yeah.
England career. So yeah, went not all plain sailing. Had a lot of
Yeah.
injuries to overcome, and
Yeah.
was involved in World Cups where we didn't win. But going into 2014, I'd had quite a few concussions, and I knew it was my last game. It's my
Yeah.
last tournament. This is my last shot. We'd lost 3 times before, twice in
Yeah.
the sevens, once in the 15. So sort of had to pretend that wasn't happening and just focus on
Yeah.
the moment and go for it. And fortunately for us, we won it. So my last game was the World Cup final,
Yeah.
which we won, which was incredible. And then after that, it was throwing myself into business and
Yeah.
like rugby coaching still, rugby commentary, but actually my fitness business. I've always been interested in fitness. I did
Yeah.
personal training alongside when we were playing because we went in and out of being professional. So the
Yeah.
times when we weren't professional, obviously we
Yes.
were working alongside it. Obviously, when you're professional, it was sort of fully
Yeah.
into that. And then did that for a few years. And then lockdown happened, and obviously PT stopped. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't meet one to one, and you had to transform how you did things. So took it online. I met my partner now, and he showed me how to really take that online
Yeah.
and make it something. We then joined forces in business as well, and I came on board with Kaplar Fitness, and now
Yeah.
we've got a thriving program where we help people get back in shape. Maybe it's
Yeah.
CEOs that have focused on business for so
Yes.
long, and they've had families, they got promoted, they've actually just
Yeah.
not, they're not healthy or
Yeah.
productive or have good energy anymore. So we help them to find that again, and just to feel better in
Yeah.
general, and also get fitter and stronger. So we had the chat us just before this, saying how we love
Yeah.
our work, and we
Yes.
call it work, but genuinely I do. I get I speak to people who say things like this to me. They're like, oh wow, like you've absolutely changed my life. Or we had a guy that said he felt 20 years younger, and like the energy that gives you to that you've helped someone to achieve that is just like, it's incredible. Like,
well, it's fantastic, and I know when we talked just offline about the energy and buzz, etc. And I think the other day I had to breathe in when you did one of your LinkedIn posts about belly fat, so I just kind of breathe it in today to make sure that you can't see that, if that makes sense.
Angle the camera,
I've changed the camera
here.
deliberately to go, she's going to be looking at my belly fat, she's going to be looking at it. So I really appreciate it from there. So today's podcast, which Kat's really kind of kindly come onto, is about what makes a positive leadership culture, and from your experience of delving in from the sporting world as well. So do you mind if we just jump in with some questions, Kat, from that point of view?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So the first one we got about experience with leadership, and that is, so what qualities did you see as effective leaders within the England rugby team? What qualities did you see?
So for me, rugby is a sport where you put your body on the line, and you really do physically have to do that. So a leader, which I'm going to look at as like the captains for this, has to do that. They've got to put their body on their line. They have to be brave. They have to lead by example, because they want, we should want to follow them, and actually their actions are going to dictate that. And then there's a fantastic one with Katie McLean, and she was captain at the time, and we were playing Blackburns, and this was before they had the rule where you had to be back from the hacker. Right. So we were right on the halfway line. They were right on the halfway line as well. We stayed face to face with them, about 2 inches apart. And eventually referee was blowing the whistle, trying to separate us. And so we did, and we all, apart from Katie, who stayed there for the longest, and she was face to face with the Kiwi girl for I don't know how long, but it just made me, like, even now thinking about it, I got goosebumps, because I was like, yes, Katie, like you're out there, you're doing it, and you're not doing anything that you wouldn't expect us to do. You do it yourself. So I think that's really important. I personally like quite a motivating captain. I know everybody has different styles, so it's not the same for everybody, but I like someone that gets like that motivating side of it. That works for me more than a sort of calm, composed leader, but just it is.
So motivating, do you mean like energized leadership, that kind of way, rather than just kind of calm, kind of like empowerment, more like, come on, we can do this?
And again, very much personal preference, because in sevens, which is very different, you couldn't have a highly energized coach, because you're playing so regularly. You play, you stop, you play, you stop. It would be, so that is more of a, right, this is our job, it's very calm, go and do it. But I think for me in 15s, I quite like someone that's like pulls you all together. So I did really like her style, but off the pitch, it's about, again, leading by example, but be first to every meeting. Make sure you're helping people as they leave, or seeing if they've got anything that you can help with and support with. Like that constant being, I think, available to support and to hear people out. I think that's important. And actually, they are always in the right kit. They're always doing this. And it sounds like the small thing, but actually what your leader's doing is what everyone else is going to look up to. And I think that's so important.
And I like a couple of words there about being brave. So we see in our world about leadership, you've got to be brave.
You do.
Kind of, and there's bits where you might be nervous. So beneath the water, your legs may be going, but above the water, you go, no, come on, we can do this. This is what we need to do. But also, I think more in recent years, I've been thinking about like sweating the small stuff. That's where the leader will sweat the small stuff to go, no, and lead by example, rather than, that doesn't matter at this moment in time. Like, for example, even like kits and kind of presents, those kind of stuff. If you start doing that, I've got this phrase about what you permit, you promote. So unless you pick up on it, it's going to become the example of people that follow you, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it is those, but it's the small things, it's the micro things that, people might not even think about. But if someone is late and they get away with it, for example, because they are captain or because whatever, that's when you start to go, well, how can they get away with it? Like, do I need not to be on time? Or if I did get told off, does that mean I'm less important? And there becomes a very, like, that's how I think that culture-wise, the respect for each other is the captain leads by example, and it's important that they put themselves out there in a way. Well, actually, I think it goes beyond that. I think they don't need to put themselves out there to do it, because they just do it anyway, which is why they're captain.
Yes.
So it's that type of person. The best thing is also, if you ask someone, oh, who wants to be leader, it will be the reluctant one that's going to be the one that's probably better than the one that's jumping up to be like
Yes.
me. And actually
Yeah.
that's the person that's probably just doing it anyway and actually
Yes.
sort of ends up in that role.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think from my experience, and I've had lots of great leaders, captains, and alongside some really brilliant people.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely, there's just some qualities I'd say.
And what have you taken to go forward with Caplar Business? What have you learned from that to bring into your own business?
So for myself, I'd say that just with my rugby sort of background, I'm
Yeah.
very disciplined with my
Yeah.
own fitness and
Yes.
my standards of what I
Yeah.
want to do, but also in the way that, like, so we have 3 coaches now. We
Yeah.
have people as part
Yeah.
of our team, and I always say the most important thing of like, some people say, how's business? I'll always go, the first thing I say is clients are really, really happy. We're getting great
Yes.
reviews. Like, I'm being told
Yeah.
it's great. And then my coaches are really, really happy as well.
Yeah.
That's a good business then. Everything
Yeah.
else, numbers, they'll take care of
Yeah.
itself. But that's the fundamentals of it. So I think working with people where you're clear with what you want them to achieve, because we do
Yeah.
want high achievers. And this is something I
Yes.
think we'll talk about in a bit, about the
Yeah.
difference between positive culture and high achieving, and the link
Yes.
between them,
Yeah.
as long as there is the support to help them to achieve that. So
Yes.
you're being held accountable, but it's like, okay, but if you need extra support or if you need
Yeah.
help to get there, this is what I'm
Yes.
there for. But making sure everybody feels important, valued, and
Yeah.
supported is a huge part of it. And yeah, just in my daily life, I will have a minimum set out for what I want to achieve. If I do more, great. But the
Yeah.
non-negotiables of the day are like, okay, this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I think even like in business, I've learned that less is more, but good stuff. Actually,
Yeah,
don't overset objects. So when I speak to people and clients, etc., and even CEOs, COOs, and they've got this long list, and I'm saying to them, but what's the core things you need to achieve? And then we
yeah,
break it down and they go, oh, wow, great, bite-sized chunks, I can enjoy it. And rather than this long list engulfs them.
yeah,
So I do like that minimum achievement, and then everything's like that plus, but you
yeah.
feel good about it, don't you?
Yeah, because there's those important things, and
Yeah.
even, in our business, when we work with clients, we would much rather that they go, right, what's
Yeah.
realistic for you to fit in, and if
Yeah.
it's training 2 times a week, or whatever it is that
Yes.
we're looking at, great, do that, smash it, go for it. Don't set
Yeah.
yourself 5 and then you miss one and then you feel
Yes.
rubbish. Like,
Yeah.
actually set yourself up for success, which helps you to build routine, which helps you to feel more
Yes.
motivated. Like, it's a,
Yeah.
it's a snowball effect. So
Yes.
it's that, I would say.
Yeah. Because I took it many years ago when I trained as an executive coach and did my diploma. It's about big goals and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, when I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, I just like that about a good daily behavior, small
Yeah.
things, don't break the chain. Even if it's a little bit, you're
Yeah.
still moving forward rather than the big audacious goals that if you don't achieve, you drop.
Yeah. Yeah. You actually, people, and it is why people stop doing things, like, in terms of, so, again, I have a health and fitness business, so a lot of what
Yeah.
I'll refer to will be that. But people set themselves really unrealistic expectations, say with diet. They're like, I'm not going to eat any chocolate, I'm not going to have
Yeah.
any biscuits. Then inevitably someone's birthday at work,
Yeah.
cake's brought in, they have a cake, they then go, I'll start again Monday, I've ruined it. And
Yes.
actually that cake is fine, it's not a problem, and it's our
Yeah.
mindset which needs to
Yes.
change. I'm not going to be all or nothing, I'm
Yeah.
going to be better, and I'm going to just
Yeah.
one step at a time.
Yeah.
And so but yeah, mindset, the all or nothing, and the,
Yeah.
oh, I failed because I didn't do X,
Yeah.
actually flip it, do what's going to set yourself up for
Yeah.
success, and everything becomes so much easier because you're more positive about everything.
Yeah. And the thing is that comes through. I know we connected through LinkedIn, but that come through your posts about
Yeah.
set yourself up, not unrealistic goals, but actually that mindset of actually those smaller things. What can you do
Yeah.
rather than the big audacious goals that, inevitably can set people up to fail.
Definitely. Like, I know that I know I'm more productive when I have better sleep.
Yeah.
Now, if I set myself, so I'm a night owl, I'm not a morning person. But if I was said, oh, I'm going to go to bed 2 hours earlier every
Yeah.
single night, and I'm going to get 8 hours solid, and there's going to be
Yeah.
no interruptions, it's not going to happen. What I can realistically do is have a firm phone down time. I can have
Yeah.
like audio book or that my
Yeah.
wind down time can be strict, but the
Yeah.
sleep time can't. That has to be good intentions. And
Yeah.
actually, yes, just it was 20 minutes earlier this time, maybe tomorrow it'll
Yes.
be half an hour. And it's more how we set ourselves up. Again, the
Yeah.
routine, does that enable it, rather than being very rigid on the
Yes.
actual outcome of it.
Yeah. Because then it's the bit then of I failed, isn't it? You get into your
Yeah,
mindset of a failure, which then the synapses in the brain creates that kind of that point of going,
yeah,
that's a failure now, rather than, oh, actually that was good, I got 15 minutes extra, rather
yeah,
than that's a
yeah.
positive kind of
And instead of
synapses.
becoming that person that like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, like
Yeah.
I fail at this, it's, oh, I can do that,
Yeah.
maybe I could even do even more, like. And
Yeah.
so it's that, it's
Yeah.
definitely mindset, which is I think fascinating. And that's something from rugby and being in high performance environments, and actually
Yeah.
what you have to endure when you're in that.
Yeah.
I struggled when I came out of that environment, and actually there isn't that high pressure that's there, and actually the
Yeah.
norm is just becoming like, okay, this is
Yeah.
normal life now. And now I'm in a good place where I can have that. I'm still competitive, and I like
Yeah.
I like to achieve things, but it's a different, instead of I want to win a World Cup, it's now
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to be good at
Yeah.
this, I want to do this. And there's
Yes.
lots of things that you're trying to
Yeah.
then be able to achieve.
Yeah, no, I think fantastic. So, what makes a real true cultural leader? So, in your eyes, what, from the rugby days and also your work
Yeah.
as well, what makes a real true cultural leader?
So I think the culture is always going to be, it has to be set by the team, has to be
Yeah.
set, but and it really, really does, because I think that there is a view, like if you ask some people what's positive culture, everybody's nice to each other, everybody's comfortable, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you were to put that into performance, I don't think that's positive culture necessarily. I think
Yeah.
positive culture is being able to be yourself, to challenge each other, to get
Yeah.
the best out of yourselves, whilst maintaining respect, support,
Um,
and making sure you're all heard.
yeah.
That to me is a positive culture where everyone can thrive. Positive doesn't mean, yes, okay, well done all the time. There
Yes.
has to be growth, and there has to be an opportunity for people to excel.
Yeah. And do you know what? I'm smiling, and you were smiling then as
Yeah,
well.
you were
That
nodding, yeah.
actually, I was just like, this is a dream. It's
Yeah.
it's not, when we
Yeah.
say to people about positive culture, it's not all hugging each other.
No.
It's about actually driving growth.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
have this phrase about evolve or dissolve. You've
Yeah.
got to keep
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah.
And actually, how do you keep moving your comfort zone? How do you keep getting
Yeah.
better? But we do need that constructive feedback, that coaching, that kind of work
Yeah.
to us. It's not just keep patting me on the back just for I turned up for work,
Yes.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, complete sense. And like realistically, I'm not going to like everybody on my team like at all times. I'm
Correct.
not going to get on with them fully all the time. There will be
Yeah.
people that you clash with. What's important is, how do I work with that person to get the
Yeah.
best out of them, to get the best out of me, so we can all work together.
Yeah.
That's positive. Me pretending to be overly friendly with someone that I'm
Yes.
not going to be friendly, or even worse, being forced into a
Yes.
situation where, oh no, you all must do this.
Yeah.
And they did it actually with roommates, which was always a like, so you go on tours and you go away for
Yeah.
ages, and they used to do it where they'd put you with someone,
Yeah.
and it would stress everyone out. And actually, that what
Yeah.
they were doing was, oh no, you need to get on with everybody and all of
Yeah.
this. Whereas actually, that one bit where you go into your room is your downtime, where
Yeah.
you want to spend it with someone you are comfortable spending it
Yeah.
with. And I actually think and in fairness, we put it to the leadership team and explained and said, actually, this is really important that we are
Yeah.
sharing with someone that is within a friendship group.
Yes.
And that made everybody far more settled. Like,
Yeah.
or what we did was, instead of it, the best one I think was, you'd have like, I would be happy to share with XXXX,
Yeah.
a number of people. So you're not saying I must share with this
Yes.
person, because everybody's got to be happy. And then maybe you said two that you wouldn't share with, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, that I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to share with this person. And that worked really nicely. But it's it's a little thing, but it's a huge thing for the players.
Yeah.
Like management and leaders might think, oh yes, we're doing something big here, we're like making
Yeah.
people force these
Yes.
friendships, whereas actually we're all going to suffer for that. Because
Yeah.
even practicality things, even though it's not personality, someone that gets up at 6 a.m. to do their hair, Like if I'm sharing with them, I'm going to find that very annoying, because I'm
Yes.
like, well, actually, I want to sleep until we haven't got breakfast till 7, so I don't want to get up
Yeah.
at 6 to do that. Whereas
Yeah.
they might find it annoying that I'm coming in late when they've gone to bed at 9,
Yeah.
because just
Yes.
the pattern is different. So even that, let alone the personality side of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, I'm exactly same as you with that. Like, challenge and growth is an
Yeah.
important, healthy environment. Now, I've definitely been in negative high performing environments, and I'll
Yeah.
be honest, when I
Yeah.
was in the sevens, at one point I nearly quit. I nearly
Oh,
just said, I'm not
really?
doing sevens anymore. It's at a point where I didn't feel valued. I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I was, you don't have to enjoy it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
2014 we won a World Cup. I don't think I enjoyed much of it, but it's not about
Yeah.
enjoyment. It's about
Yeah.
achieving something as a group. And
Yes.
so, but yeah, to actually actively not be enjoying it and not feeling valued like I did in
Yeah.
the sevens, that was different. And luckily for me, there was a turning point in there, which meant I did continue and actually
Yes.
successful kind of sevens with that. But it does just show the environment is so important. If someone
Yeah.
has to believe that they have a shot of an opportunity to prove themselves, to
Yes.
grow and be valued, and
Yeah.
if you don't, if you're shot down or if you're just
Yeah.
pushed aside, you either just stop or you give up. So
Yes.
it's important that everybody has that.
Yeah, and do you know what? I find it so refreshing because like sharing rooms, those kind of
Yeah,
things, they're the things that could be between high performance or not, isn't it?
yeah,
So if you think about how you feel you've slept, or you
yeah.
kind of,
Oh yeah,
or
huge.
even actually, I read a really great book about energy that you
Yeah,
can pick up people's energy within 5 meters. So you walk
yeah,
into it. So imagine that walking into a bedroom, something you're not comfortable with,
yeah,
and you're going, got
yeah.
another
It's
couple of days with
receptive.
each other here. This is
Yeah.
that kind of, that's not conducive to
No,
high performance.
no.
And I think the other bit about talking to your leadership team, saying, "Look, come on, this
Yeah,
has got to change." That's just common sense,
yeah.
isn't it? And I worked going back in my banking world. We had like forced fun.
Oh
And you
no.
and you're like this just, and we had one gentleman that was the head of fun, and
Yeah,
he was the poor sausage. It was such an introvert that it
yeah.
killed him.
Of course it
It
did.
actually, like
Yeah,
metaphorically, and you just think,
yeah.
come on, we shouldn't be doing that to people.
No, and it's yeah, there's helping people to get out their comfort zone, which is
Yeah.
very that's a close thing, and they're
Yes.
just out their comfort zone because they're supported, everyone's
Yeah.
kind of got your back. But to throw someone under the bus like that would
Yeah.
be, if for example I was put in that situation, I'd die. I'd be like, that's awful. I'm
Yes.
too awkward for this. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
Yeah.
energy thing's huge. I shared my first cap. I think I shared with somebody who's an experienced player who was sort of, I would say, checking out, and
Really.
her energy was very low. And so
Yeah.
I was super excited. I was like, I can't wait
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
And she was my position as well. And she was just, oh, I'm a bit tired, I can't bother. Like, it was a genuine, like, ugh. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, this is the most excited I could be in my
Yes.
life. And then
Yeah.
you're there, like, almost bringing
Yeah.
it down. And yeah, I think it's, and we did a lot of stuff on personality testing, which I know is a bit of a, some people don't really like it, other people are sort of obsessed with it, and I'm sort of in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But what it did highlight was what someone is like or what they need when they're under pressure, which I
Yes.
quite liked that, to
Yeah.
understand it, because actually the two types of people that shouldn't share was me and my roomie, and we got on so well. And so actually, if you're on
Yeah.
paper shouldn't work, but actually practically
Yes.
it really did, because
Yeah.
we've got each other. And if she needed
Yes.
space, because she's a bit kind of
Yes.
calmer and needs alone time,
Yeah.
then great. I just know that, and there's no like worry
Yeah.
about that, and
Yeah.
no stress. So I think that those types of things are important, of what people need and what type,
Yeah.
but as long as it's not typecast that they always need that,
Correct.
because of course they don't. Of course,
Yeah.
everybody's different and it's all circumstantial. And
Yeah.
I think the World Cup, again, we were in camp for a long time, and this isn't something that we were used to either. So we're like semi-pro, so you've got it, but semi-pro in a
Yeah.
way of like, you go and you have normal life for 3
Yeah.
weeks, and then you go in camp for a week, then you have
Yeah.
normal life for 2 weeks, and you go in camp for 2 weeks. So you're in and out, and you're thrust sort of into it,
Yes.
and then you're in this environment suddenly where you don't have your home comforts. You're in with a lot of
Yeah.
other people, and the emotions, I'm telling you, ran high. There was one
Yeah.
session, I think, where 3 of us in the same session were just silently crying. We were
Oh,
training,
really?
but just, yeah, no, just
Yeah.
like, I was just like, oh, I just can't do this. And it wasn't actually the environment, there was nothing wrong, it was just a lot. And I
Yes.
think it was then, actually, like, if someone went, Kat, what's wrong, I would have bawled. It would
Yes.
have been the worst thing they could have done. Or if they'd have hugged me, awful.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want that. But actually, people just got on with it. They left me alone, and I
Yes.
left the session, and I was happy. So it
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
knowing who to
Yeah.
ask, who not to, and that was a
Yeah.
really important
Yeah.
part of teamship.
Well, it goes back to that kind of profiling. So I'm in the camp of you using profiling. So we do profiling and those kind of
Yeah,
things, but it's about how it's used, the
yeah,
quality of it, the
yeah,
context, and we don't
yes.
label
Context.
people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
actually, we all have bits of these traits and those kind of things,
yeah,
but it's actually how do you work with
yes,
people, those
yeah,
traits, rather than labeling. So no, I'm
yeah,
definitely on that bit, and it's the bit there about being respectful. You said with your roomie that you shouldn't have been on there on paper, but actually you're respectful to each
yeah,
other about you need your space or I need my space, that kind of
yeah.
stuff. That's a good working environment, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And there was a time at the Sevens we used it, and we did use it as a joke. So rather than labeling, because the problem is with labeling, it can excuse behaviour.
Yes.
So there
Yeah.
were the yellows, which are sunshine yellows, the fun ones,
Yes.
the like noisy
Yeah.
ones. And so me and my friends were in that camp.
Yeah.
And so we were being noisy and playing a game. And actually, there was some of the blues who were
Yes.
concentrating and needed downtime that actually they said it really well. They went, yellows, if you want to be noisy, can you go outside? And but actually we went, yeah, actually fair play, they're trying to chill.
That's
Let's take this
yeah.
outside. And
Yeah.
then we could carry on. It wasn't like you're being annoying. It was just like actually to solve
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
let's do that. And I
Yeah.
think that's when it's like, okay, cool, like this makes sense. And in my
Yeah.
coaching, I used to coach a team, and they were very, very talented, but they just didn't gel. The backline didn't
Yes.
gel at all. And we went from not performing to like really performing well,
Yeah.
and the sole difference was getting them to understand each other. So I had one guy
Yeah.
that was so I had my fly half who needed information, who needed
Yes.
time, and he'd make excellent decisions, best decision maker on the
Yeah.
pitch, but under pressure he would buffer. So
Yeah.
he'd stop. And then I had a center who was like, he'll do whatever he's told, but he would scream and he would shout and he'd be like, what's the call? What's the call? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, just so you realize you're actually stressing them out and you're then not
Yes.
getting the information which you are craving and that you
Yeah.
need. So why don't we sort of flip? And we did sort of different
Yes.
things, and actually they then understood each other. So Tom
Yeah.
for the 10 would give a call much earlier. So I was
Yeah.
like, just give a call, don't matter if it's the right one or not, just give
Yeah.
something to calm him down. And then you get your time to then
Yes.
assess. And it
Yeah.
just suddenly, it genuinely transformed how that backline worked, just getting those two sort of clashes of
Yes.
styles to then
Yeah.
understand each other. And I do think that's the fascinating side of teamwork. And again, with
Yeah.
leadership, being able to spot the correct issue, and then I think sticking to it and being like, okay, well, this is what
Yeah.
we do, and that doesn't change, but we've like helped people to fit into it.
Yeah, and I think that there's that beauty of it going, that person needs this, you need this. Come on,
Yeah,
let's work it through.
yeah,
That is that where I see that positive culture rather than what we see sometimes is I win, you lose. I get what I need,
yeah,
you lose, and you go,
yeah,
that's not a culture. That's someone winning. Whereas
yeah,
actually there's a bit there of we're not always gonna, and I loved your bit earlier, we're not always gonna get along with people we work with.
yeah,
But
you know,
how are we respectful? And I love that
yeah,
word where you put earlier, respectful, to
yeah,
appreciate differences. But actually, we've got a job to do. So how are we going to
yeah.
work it? If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, and it is that. It's like yeah, the unrealistic thing
Mm.
would be everybody's hugging, happy, and
Yes.
all the time. And again, there's like team ritual. Like I think that at one point they used to, before kickoff, they would all like just give each other like a quick sort of like pat and a hug and something
Yeah.
like that. And for me, I actually found that very overwhelming. And before playing, I didn't want anyone to
Yes.
touch me. I just wanted to
Yes.
like have my own space. So
Yeah.
they sort of were aware, but I'd just take myself out. I'd like
Yeah.
go for a wee, like
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
just leave the room. So I
Yeah.
didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to stop it or make a big deal.
Yes.
But I was like,
Yeah.
actually, for me, that's not going to work. It's going to stress me
Yes.
out more than
Yeah. Yeah.
anything. Then come back into it. But I think
Yeah.
people knowing without even having to say it, they'll have noticed. They'll obviously have
Yes.
noticed that I'm not involved
Yeah.
in it. But rather than make a big deal and tell me I have to be, it's
Yes.
no, okay, everybody
Yeah.
do what works best
Yeah.
for them to get themselves in the
Yeah.
best position to be able to perform.
And that's where we see it more and more because of different words in it, but about equity and equality.
Yeah,
Actually, that you take yourself out, great. You don't have to be there to
yeah.
hug, etc. I mean, that would be my worst nightmare, being hugged.
I
I'd
do.
sweat
Just before a
profusely.
game. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I would do. Yeah, at first I did it, and I was like, I'm actually like, I started to stress so much about it. I stopped thinking about a game, and I was like, well, that's the point when you're like, no, I can't do it. So I've just have
Yeah.
to, performance wise, I just
Yeah.
take myself out. But yeah,
Yeah, I just go to this it's very awkward and uncomfortable. I have it in work if people occasionally go, "Oh, thanks ever so much,
Yeah,
Steve, for this," and I'd go very like kind of curl up
yeah,
and go, "Oh, this is really uncomfortable."
yeah.
So yeah, so
Well, one of
that's
our yeah.
yeah.
I was going to say
Sorry.
one of our profiles on a girl called Ruth who loved us, brilliant girl. But one of her things it said, "Do not hug Ruth or do not touch Ruth." There was something that basically was
Yeah.
like she wasn't a hugger and she would just do this and like.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
everybody, once you knew that, at least you were like, okay, cool, just
Yeah.
don't. But I think this is where we did as a squad get it so right in that people could be different and you could
Yeah.
celebrate that difference, and that is what makes a positive culture is you accept people for who they are, but you have the agreed point of what we want to do. And actually, if our agreed culture was performance, because if
Yeah.
you said, oh, you could all be happy and not win,
Yeah.
or we could get uncomfortable at times, but we're
Yes.
going to be high performing and this is what we are aiming to
Yeah.
achieve, we'd all pick that other one. You would
Yeah.
all pick it.
Yeah.
And I think when you've got things like selection, that's when things can become a bit more difficult because
Yeah.
actually you ask somebody, are you happy? The non-selected player says no, the selected player says yes. So
Yeah.
it's like actually
Yes.
you have to balance actually the average of everything that's
Yeah.
going on. But I think one thing that definitely hasn't worked in the environments that I've been in is pitting people off against each other to be like,
Yeah.
because actually I always room with other wingers, like my
Yeah.
position, because I didn't ever feel that we were a threat to each other. Because
Yes.
actually, when it comes down to it, whoever's performing better is going to get picked. It's not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
me or them. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
yourself. Like it's
Yeah.
just like you can only do what you do. And actually, I spoke about this because this is we get selection under the door. So you get in like the two of you, we
Yeah.
get it at the same time. We're sat in the same room. Could be pretty awkward if one of you's
Yeah.
sign one's not, but it just never was because it was like, okay, cool, that's what they're looking for this. I completely
Yes.
get it. You're an amazing player, or they
Yeah.
would,
Yeah.
understand why I got it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it should never be a versus. It's well, if she's the best,
Yeah.
if she's the best in the world and I'm actually better, then think how great I am. If I'm
Yes.
getting it because I'm hoping she's bad, then actually then I'm
Yes.
not as best as I could be. So it's that
No.
competitiveness in
Yeah.
that positive light. And again, I think you said it earlier about the forced kind of thing. So they said about
Yeah.
if someone wasn't selected, what you should do, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
actually, I think there shouldn't be a what you should do. It's a what's right for you and that
Yes.
person. So actually,
Yeah.
be Kay Wilson in the sevens,
Yeah.
like whoever was selected, as soon as we'd hear it, it would be the player that didn't get selected that would find the other one, nod, just give a
Yeah.
thumbs up and go smash it, like score,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that was our thing. And then other
Yeah.
people might need space,
Yes.
I think it was like whenever you try and force a behavior on a group, it won't work, or it will work short term, but
Yeah.
it won't long term.
Yeah.
Whereas actually it's holding people accountable to, you could have a behavior as it is not acceptable
Yeah.
to do X. So it's not acceptable to not be selected and to
Yeah.
be moody or to sulk or to do anything like that can be
Yeah.
an okay, like that could be held accountable for. Like we had a actually this is something that I loved, and again it's how we sort of policed it because we sort of led by humor quite
Yeah.
a lot. So we had these dice, and if you were late or if you were defensive, like
Yeah.
if you were like, oh yeah, but you had to roll the dice at a different time. It wasn't
Yeah.
immediately, but it was like, right, you're rolling
Yeah.
the dice later. And there was these fun things that correlated to the numbers, and if you got it, you would have to go and do something. So it
Yeah.
became quite an actual like people like
Yeah.
it was something funny, but it policed behavior because we were
Yes.
like, well, actually, it's not okay to be late.
Yes.
But instead of shouting at someone because they're late, it's like
Yeah.
roll the dice, and then they have to
Yes.
do something which we've all agreed as a group for what that
Yeah.
consequence is, and
Yeah.
then it becomes a fun thing, but still you don't want to roll the dice because you have
Yes.
to eat a fish oil or whatever you got to do. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that is again an example of a good
Yeah.
positive culture where you're holding people to account because you do need to be held accountable,
Yeah.
but in a way that didn't make it awkward between players. Like, 'cause it wouldn't
Yes.
work if I was like, "Oh, mate, you're 5 minutes late." It
Yeah.
it, it wouldn't work, and people
Yeah.
wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. But no, a good example I think of something that worked for our group at the time
Yeah.
might not work for another group, but
Correct. Yeah.
that is the beauty of it. It's
Yeah.
working out because I did something actually. So we got made at England and it made us incredible and comfortable, but it was on purpose. It was on
Yeah.
purpose to make us feel uncomfortable. They knew it would and they did. If you made a mistake or oh no, what was it? Sorry. If the 10 missed a kick, they had to pick someone on their team that had to go and do fitness. So the
Oh, wow.
pressure on that kick,
Yeah.
like awful. Now, as the group of women really struggled with it and hated it because they were like, can I pick myself? Can I go and do the fitness? Like,
Yeah.
they didn't want to subject somebody
Yes.
to doing that. Now, I tried a version of it with my men's team I was coaching, and they found it hilarious. They were like, ha, go and make him do fitness, because they didn't care. They didn't have the
Yes.
same sort of weight
Yeah.
to it that,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not saying it was just that group versus this
Yes.
group
Yeah.
didn't work, or
Yeah.
it didn't create pressure. It
Yeah.
created a funny opportunity. Actually, they probably missed on purpose so they could
Yes.
make someone
Correct.
go and do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so but actually, so it's an example again of each group is going to be different, and one
Yeah.
thing might work. But what fundamentally I think is the key to all of it is that it's an agreed, shared set of values that you are
Right.
all working to, and you hold each
Yeah.
other accountable to doing them.
Yeah, and do you know what I love there about the agreed values? This is
Yeah.
I call it the North Star. That's where we're going.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
where we're working
Yep.
to. Come on,
Yeah.
let's get behind it. I like the couple of bits though that you said there about would you prefer to be nice or actually, I think I've got the words right,
Yeah.
lose or be
Yeah.
uncomfortable to
Yeah.
win to get that
Yeah.
goal. I think that's a brilliant way of saying it. To go, do you know, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to go through some uncomfortable places to get here to be winners
Yeah.
for that point,
Yeah.
that peak performance. I think that absolutely beautiful kind of articulate, because I think we see too often now in leadership of let's please everybody,
Yeah.
but the business doesn't move forward.
Yes. Yeah.
And you go, well, that, and they go, but you know, I want that person to be happy in that, but you're going, well, that they may not be happy, but you've got to grow a business. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, you want people to feel comfortable, but they need to also understand that, yeah, at times things might be uncomfortable, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, if you are uncomfortable, you're supported. We're not
Yes.
setting you up. If you fail, you're not
Yeah.
failing. It's because we're pushing you out of this. And
Yeah.
so that understanding of actually you're getting rid of the sort of failure in
Yes.
the before the ultimate goal, really,
Yes.
because if you do lose, then it's
Yeah.
and this is an important thing about culture, and it was one of the questions that you sort of put before, or a variation of
Yeah.
it, is how do you make sure that you lead when it's in tough times, and
Yes.
how does that culture stay? And one of the things is it's not dependent on results, it's dependent on behavior. So
Correct.
if we go away and we lose,
Yeah.
okay, that doesn't change. We don't suddenly start drilling people or shouting at people
Yes.
if they're late where we didn't before. It's not a
Yes.
blame game of like, well, this is why we lost. Actually, it's only the behaviors, and that's the thing that you control. And I think that's what makes a good leader, and actually being able to I coach Hackney at the minute, and after a game, they're great. They might lose, and they can on the pitch look disappointed, but as soon as they're in that clubhouse, it's
Yeah.
gone. It's gone today.
Yeah.
They've moved on, and they, you know,
Yeah.
and for me, it would sit with me for longer. But again, it's not that they're not upset or hurt by the loss. It's for
Yeah.
them. It's okay. That part is done now. Now it's about, and they, you know, that
Yes.
in the clubhouse, they're social, they have fun, and I
Yeah.
think that it's always important as the sort of leader or the coach to, you've got to check with what they want. Because if I go in and go, I want us to win the league this year, well, if they don't want to
Yeah.
win it, then there's
No.
no point. So it
No.
has to be, what do you want to achieve for the season? And I think, unfortunately, in some teams, it's a very token thing that's done.
Yes.
In that it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what
Good.
do you want to achieve? They'll say it, they'll write it on a wall, and then they don't even look at it ever again. So you're
Yeah.
there like, it's not an actual true cultural
Yes.
goals or anything. It's tick a
Yeah.
box, I've asked
Yes.
them, now I'm going to tell them what I want. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be actually fundamentally,
Yeah.
you've said you want this, therefore this means
Yes.
this action.
Yeah.
So it's, and I think it's that, and it's consistently referring to it. Because I remember we got put in a room and we had I don't know, I think we had like half an hour to come up with a word that we wanted to
Yeah.
be what we're about, and it does, that's a bit like forced fun to me. I'm like, because we were just like, I don't care any word. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't something that we'd come up with, that we bought
Correct.
into. It was a
Yeah.
forced activity, so it didn't work. Whereas actually, when you find these things and you allow those teams to spend the time together in a non-structured way, you'll find those come out and people will
Yes.
get ideas, but naturally, and
Yeah.
something will come out of it, and then that becomes a thing. Like, how many
Yes.
times has accidentally someone said something
Yeah.
socially that becomes the
Yeah.
thing that is then what
Yeah.
drives us? And I think I think allow people opportunities to do that is far better than forcing people to sit in a room for half an hour and say, we're
Yeah.
not leaving until we come up with a word that we're going to paint
Yeah.
everywhere. And I think that realistically, though, unfortunately,
Yeah.
is what a lot of companies and businesses do.
But I love the bit there, which like the questions we're free flowing, so I love it. This is
Yeah,
brilliant. So if you think about that bit there about behaviours, I love that bit. The outcome is the outcome,
yeah,
but the behaviours are your controllables.
yeah,
So they're the bits where you can say after the game, let's just chat through these bits. You know,
yeah,
I played sport to a high level, but not to your level, nowhere near. But actually, yeah, I got disappointed or upset if
yeah,
I didn't do. But then I'd look and go, right, what can I do next time that will make us better, quicker,
yes,
faster, those kind of
yeah,
things. Not let's keep looking at the outcome because that's not going to change.
yes,
It's already
yeah,
gone
yeah,
from that point of view. And I think that's fascinating about let's just have a look. And I think also that common goals and values,
yeah,
where are we going, what is it we want to achieve, then you get people with it rather than I was just thinking now, I remember being with an old boss that said to me, like we was a team, we're doing blue sky thinking and
yeah,
then coming up with all these different ideas, and it was quite creative. I was like, oh
yeah,
no, I'm really enjoying it. And then after 2 hours he went, right, this is what I've decided we're going to do. And
yeah,
you go, we've just spent 2 hours of my life
yeah,
that we're not going to get back, but
yes,
actually if you've got to be true and authentic in yourself.
yes. If you're asking the questions,
Yeah.
why are you asking them? If you're asking them, so like, and rugby coaches do this, they'll say like, oh, what are we looking for here? People will offer their genuine opinion, and all they're doing as a coach is waiting for the one word comes up that they want.
Yes.
And
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
then don't ask a question because it's not an
Correct.
actual question. Just say like,
Yeah.
I'm looking for this, like, and just do it. So
Yes.
I think people misunderstand what questioning the point of it is, whereas
Yeah.
actually you have to go, and it's why sometimes
Yeah.
I'll when people get a bit like nervous about speaking in front of people, I'll be like, oh, what did you see there? Because
Yeah.
there's no wrong answer. What did you see?
Yeah.
Like what what brought you to that decision? Like
Yeah.
those type of things. 'Cause actually, there's nothing wrong. It's not like why did you do that? It's a
Yeah.
very different that they can
Yes.
go. And because I asked, because that's it. Once I asked the lad, and I went, oh, why did you run that line? And he went, I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so actually, if I'd have asked it differently and been like, oh, what did you
Yes.
see there? And he'd have probably gone, oh, I saw a gap, or I
Yes.
saw that this player had got out,
Yeah.
was out of shape or something. But actually, why?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yes.
Like, and so
Yeah.
I think he did know. But so yeah, I
Yeah.
think things like that are important as well. But it's why I love team stuff, and it's so
Yeah.
important. And the environment is huge. But you cannot be the one. Yeah, if you're asking, listen,
Yeah.
because otherwise don't ask. I'd much rather someone just came into that meeting that you were talking about and go,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing. And you'd go, okay, rather
Great.
than 2 hours wasted of your time that isn't then going to be
No.
used. Because what's the point? I've put all this effort in.
Yeah.
And I think it's realizing as well, if you're getting frustrated with something, you've got to check why. If you're the leader, if I'm
Yeah.
frustrated of like, or if I've offered something out and people haven't took it, then actually they just might not. Well, like so say like you've put loads of time and effort into something.
Yeah.
If they don't find it important, I can't be offended that that's the case. You have
Yes.
to know that everyone's on the same page, and
Yes.
I think that's a big thing as well of understanding that other people will want it and some people won't, and it's very much depends
Yeah.
on the year.
Yeah. And what would you say, like kind of life skills that you've taken from rugby and also in kind of your fitness work? What's kind of the life skills you've taken forward as kind of like the culture you want to create?
So I love that people say to me when they speak to me or when they meet me, say at commentary or they
Yeah.
anything like that, they'll be like, oh, you're just you. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm me, whether I'm on the microphone, whether I'm on the TV, whether I'm coaching show, and I'm very much who I am,
Yeah.
and it's just always will be. And like, I love that. And I think that the word sort of authentic gets thrown around sometimes as like people try to be authentic, and if you're trying then you're
Yes.
not, because if you're just you and it's like
There's an
okay
irony there, isn't it?
yeah I'm
I'm
trying to be
trying to be
authentic.
authentic. Well, is that
Just
you or not then?
yeah, then you're not, because you're trying to be something. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think just being yourself, and I think culture wise, which I always say in sort of my coaching, is I want people to feel comfortable to express themselves and not worried about if they're making a mistake.
Yeah.
So, because if someone's doing something out of fear, because they think you're going to shout at them, and I said this to the team I'm coaching at the minute, I was like, I will only ever lose my temper if someone isn't trying, or
Yeah.
if you're talking when someone else is talking, because it's rude. Like, so I'm like, if you drop a ball, or if you make a wrong decision, or if you do that, that's never going to make me mad. Like it's never gonna,
Yeah.
that's not what it's about. So the only thing is lack of effort. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yes.
get like shouty and I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, so I think, yeah, creating an environment where people can express themselves without fear of judgment, then I think you can create something very special.
Yeah.
Because then players are free to be themselves. And so one of my, so on my level 4, you had to come up with some, like people were doing these long philosophies, and I just came up with one that was just really short, but it was like, back yourself, back each other, work hard. And I was like, actually, that as a team, for me as a coach, that's
Yes.
probably it. Like, back yourself, be confident,
Yeah.
back each other, whatever someone says, even if you don't agree
Yeah.
with it, you do it, you buy into it, discuss it afterwards, and then just working hard.
Yeah.
And I think probably same with like in business. I think I just don't, I think as a person, I'd say that I'm probably I'd want to be seen as energetic, motivating, but like
Yeah.
very fair and very like
Yeah.
do what's right
Yeah.
and not what's easy. I think that would be something that I'd sort of want to create, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I was smirking then when we talked about I'm going to be an authentic leader, and you're like, oh, are you going to be authentic or not? It always
Yeah.
tickled me when people said, "Can I be honest with you?" And you go, "What? Why are you never honest?
Yeah, were you lying before?
Were you telling me before? I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
a bit confused now. So
yeah,
that always
yeah.
tickles me, those kind of phrases
Yes,
from that
yeah,
point
no,
of
they
view.
are funny though, because it's wherever they come from. But it's what you mean is like you might not want to hear this.
Yes, that's
Is actually
correct.
what you
Yeah,
mean. Yeah, like,
yeah, yeah,
but sometimes you do have to have discussions, and
yeah,
it's the worst. So I did some coaching, got the opportunity to coach out in Sri Lanka, and these girls were, if you didn't select them, it's their whole thing like that. They get this amazing opportunity to go and play
yeah,
international rugby and tour and do sevens. And it's not like here, it's not quite the same, but over there, you're like, they're not going, and these little folk, they're looking up to you, and you're just like, it's the worst part of any job. Like,
yeah,
it was awful. But also, you have to be able to do it and do it in a way that's like, okay, you're not going to want to hear this. And
yeah,
unfortunately, this time you're not going, it's because of
yeah,
this. Like, and actually being like, and
yes,
now I'm going to be around if you want to talk to me afterwards. Like, I'm going to,
yeah,
but that's an important part of, because you can't just always have the fun stuff. Like,
no,
as a leader, if you just want to be liked, you're not going to be a good leader, I don't think, because
correct.
that's not what you're there for. And actually,
Yeah,
sometimes, and we've picked up on this, sometimes be the baddie almost on purpose so the team can bond, because actually you then take the pressure off of them and they've got someone to go, well, they can do one and they can focus on themselves. And
yeah,
actually you can be the like situations where you can do it on purpose. And there's only
yeah,
certain ones, but there definitely
yeah,
been times I can think of a definite one where I've been like, I'm going to look like a baddie here, even though I
yeah,
don't really like necessarily want to be,
yeah,
but the team will definitely bond afterwards in a better way,
yeah,
and they did. So, and I think that's it. It's not like people like leaders that are fair, and that are honest.
yes,
I think rather than ones that are like and telling you stuff, and then because the thing is, if you're telling a player, "Oh, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing," oh, you dropped this week, why?
yeah,
Like, of course they're going to be like, well, they don't know what they're on about. Whereas if
yes,
it's like, I'm a bit concerned about this, I think you need to work on that. Like, make sure of this. Like,
yeah,
oh, you've improved. That's great. Keep doing that.
yeah.
Like, just having those chats, I think, is really, really key.
Yeah, and I think that's that bit of I'm a strong believer that the leader takes the paycheck for
Yeah,
the good times, but also the bad times.
yeah, has to.
That's what the paycheck's about.
It
So
has to.
actually, you have to give people bad information. But
Yeah,
what I love the bit there when you just said about the Sri Lankan girls
yeah,
was about you told them why.
yeah,
So the reason being is you're not being successful this time, but this is the reason
yeah,
why I am about if you want to chuck about.
yeah.
Whereas what I see too often is people get really clumsy with it and waffle,
Oh,
and then
yeah,
it gets lost, and
yeah,
then the person goes, am I bad? Am I good? Am I in? Am I
yeah,
not? Am
yeah,
I promoted? Am I not promoted? Whereas
yeah,
actually, we believe in what's called clean language. Let's
yeah,
just be clear with the person,
yeah,
really help educate them, be supportive, but then move
yeah.
on.
And don't make it about yourself, because too often, oh,
Correct.
this is really hard for me to say. Actually, no, it's not about you at the minute. Be like,
Yes.
okay, here you go, deliver it. Because I always think about it the other way around. What would you want to receive it as? Don't faff around. Just tell me
Yeah.
and give me chance to process it. Is what I
Yes.
would want as the person
Yeah.
receiving it. So delivering it, and it's hard sometimes because you do want to sort of like soften a blow or you know, but actually sometimes when it comes down to it, you just have to be like, look, you're going to do this. This is why I've done it. And, you know, you know, the team I'm coaching at the minute is we're champ 2. So it's not, you know, we train once a week, we play at a weekend. So I don't have a lot of time with them. So sometimes it's going to be a voice note that I'm like, by the way, just a heads up before the team goes out, you're going to be on the bench. This is because of this, and give them a work on. So it's, you know, but at least they've got it. It's something. Ideally, it's a face-to-face conversation, but it's involved. It can't be done in the situation that we're in at the minute. But I think how you deal with people is so important. The individuals, but the team, like it is key. And I've had coaches that have not been good at it, but because I've been in that sort of, like, I've had friends that have been playing that have been treated terribly by coaches that I haven't experienced because I've just been starting and selected and sort of, so you don't experience what it's like to be one of the players isn't. And that needs to be where the team comes together of like, oh, actually, even if I'm in a position of comfort and I'm good, actually we all need to be good, because it's not far. You know, it's not far, so you could be that player. So actually we all need to look out for each other. So I think that's important to think about as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the so we would call it like active bystander. So actually, if you see things happening or whatever, you don't have to go and put a big arm, you know, like knowing the person, big arm around. Just check in with them. You know, are you okay? How are you feeling? You know, don't see yourself. Do you want to have a chat? And that, those kind of that just gives people going, oh, I'm not by myself.
Yes, yeah, because I think, like with anything, but like team sport especially, it can be the loneliest place because you're surrounded by people, but if no one's actually giving you what you need at that time, you can feel more lonely. So I think it is just being like, you're right, or even just someone saying like, do you want coffee? It's those small tiny things that do have the biggest impact. And I think when people are injured and get removed from a group, that's the most important time to check in on someone.
Yes, correct.
But not like, oh, how are you feeling? It's actually not that. I think it's just they're like, all right, mate, or like even take the mick out of them, but like just do something to like basically you're still involved. We're thinking of you without making it a big sort of thing.
Because I think the bit there is if you're doing the bit which we, you know, so we say about empathy versus sympathy. Whereas if we're going in as empathetic leaders and going, do you know, we just want to check in with you. I know you've had a, like, you know, you're poorly. That's our empathy, rather than, oh, how are you? We're just going to stay in that misery. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's like, it can be, and you do get it's 100% that empathy or sympathy and what a person needs. Nobody really wants sympathy, I don't think, or like most of the time, especially not in that sort of scenario when you're injured, because it's the same people ask you the same questions, and you just actually don't want to think about it. You just want to be normal and be in the group. So actually someone just letting them know without saying it, we're thinking of you, is like a nice definitely a nice thing.
And it doesn't matter what personality you are, male, female, whoever it is, just someone saying to you, are you okay? You know, what's going on in your world, those kind of stuff. You know, we're missing you here, that kind of stuff. Let's bring you up to date with what you're missing from work or with the sports team, or that makes people go, do you know what's still part of it?
Yeah. And again, it is different, and it is different in different teams. So like, Worcester, where I played for, and at Hackney now, if a player got badly injured, someone would do a collection, we'd get money, we'd send them flowers, we'd send a card, everyone would sign it. So I suggested when I was coaching the men's team, and I went, oh, they're injured, should we get a card together and do it? And they all just looked at me like I was insane.
Yes.
Like, what? Like, they'll buy him a beer when they see him. Like that's what they'll do. And but I was there like,
you turned up with the flowers, the card. You went, can everyone sign this, please? And you went, what's happened?
They're just like, what do you mean? And they honestly just baffled. They were just like, why would we write a card? So I don't understand. Like they honestly just didn't have that. And it's interesting for what would work, what wouldn't, and things. But I do find it's definitely, having been involved with very different teams, that there are differences, and sort of even the language you use, it's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating.
And what would you say, to kind of like last question we're going to? So I know we said if you're just defining like kind of a couple of words or that, what would you say as a leader really creates a positive culture? What would be kind of, because like one of my ones is about integrity. So I believe in leaders that lead with integrity, that kind of bit. So kind of leading from the front, but actually they say what they're going to do and they do it. That's one of my that's one of my kind of true values, and I like leaders that are driven. So if
Yeah.
you said about leadership, kind of, I like where are we going? What are we going to do? Come on, that kind
Yeah.
of, I get motivated by that rather
Yeah.
than where are we? I don't know what's going on from that
Yeah.
point of view. So what would you say in your world, Kat, is a kind of couple of
Yeah.
key things that are
So
important to you?
I'd say integrity is a great word, and I think that the driven side of it, I'd be like very clear. So you
Yeah,
want a leader that is clear, that is fair, and that is going to have your back as a team and have those awkward
yeah,
conversations. So sometimes taking on the absorbing the like the negatives as
yes,
that one person, so the 30 don't have to,
yes,
like to then, and I think that makes a good leader, definitely. And having conversations like we had in the squad, again, it's not a few words, is it, but like that bridging between like coaches and players, you don't want to divide. So actually your leader is the in
yes,
between. The captain is that, okay, well, this is what
yeah,
they want, this is what they want, and they sort of mediate in a way, but
yeah,
it's led, they lead it.
yes, yeah,
So yeah, I guess the lead by example. If I had
yeah,
to sort of pick sort of one, it would be like that. And like, oh no, actually, brave. That was what I said at the start, wasn't it? You want
yes,
a brave leader that's going to put themselves
yeah,
out there and
yeah.
deliver.
Yeah, and that's the bit. Just to kind of finish up today, like I see with your LinkedIn post, they're brave what you
Thank
do and what
you.
you show, and kind of, and I think, oh, do you know that? And that's the bit when I said to you off camera, or like kind of off camera today. I said actually before it was your LinkedIn post that inspired me to reach out and connect and go,
Yeah,
we really want you. Then it was the England rugby come off the back
yeah,
of it, and I was like, oh wow, this is what a treat. This is absolutely amazing. But I think the bit there is like with your LinkedIn post, I definitely see bravery, courageous, kindness, authentic, those kind of things really, really shine through
thank
from
you.
kind of that point of view. I think that means a lot in today's world.
Yeah, I would think actually, I think some of the posts that have gone better than I would ever have expected to are the ones where I've been more vulnerable. And I felt at first very uncomfortable writing them because I don't
Yeah,
really like being vulnerable. And I wrote them, and the response I got was just incredible. And I think that actually led to, yeah, people kind of feeling like they already know me. And when they
yeah,
then meet me, they're like, oh, yeah, this is exactly how
yes,
you are. Like
yeah, yeah,
I hope I'm exactly as what you expected from
yeah,
seeing the post. But I think, yeah, putting yourself out there and the amount of, like, I do get a lot of trolling as I sort of post about,
yeah,
but the amount of support out there and the nice people there that are really rooting
yeah,
for like good people, that there
yeah,
are just so many out there, and it's
yeah.
great to see.
Well, I always look at go with the majority rather than the minority. So like
Yeah,
trolling, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And it's not nice. It's not
yeah,
pleasant at all. But it's actually going, do you know, a majority of people, and this is just there's no scientific research to this.
yeah,
So I'm going to put it up there.
yeah,
My belief is 90% of people are good, 10% of people are naughty.
yeah.
That's my
Okay.
view of the world. It's not going
Yeah,
to change. There's no scientific
yeah,
research, but I like it. And I
yeah,
try and see the good in people to go, do you
yeah.
know what? They're trying to do their best from that point of view, but there's 10% naughty sausages. I say that.
Yeah,
That's my
naughty
bit.
sausages. I like
Naughty
that. Maybe
sausage.
I'll start replying to trolls as naughty sausage.
Yeah, hello, naughty sausage. How are you? If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So today, Kat, so how can people reach out to you, connect with you, find out more about your fitness business as well, like Kplar? How can they kind of
Yeah,
get to know you?
yeah. So on Instagram, Cat Merchant 14, Twitter, LinkedIn, basically any of my socials, and there's a link on there as well, and you can actually book a call to chat if you did want to
Yeah.
talk about program things like that. But otherwise, just DMs are open, and I'm always up for a good chat.
Yeah, fab. So can
Yeah.
I just say it's been brilliant today. I think we could just talk for ages. I'm super excited. I really enjoy it. If it just felt
Yeah,
like a natural chat.
that felt like it time's got, because I looked and I was like, oh yeah, it's been yeah, it's been quite a long
Yeah.
time, but it didn't
Yeah.
feel like
I
that, did
suddenly
it?
saw that the light come up on the thing saying like
Yeah,
5 minutes left, and I was like, oh
yeah,
wow, and I better check the clock. So
yeah.
from that point
No,
of view,
we've done good.
can
Yeah,
I just
no,
say
thanks
a
for that.
huge thank you for today?
Yeah,
Really, really appreciate it. And it just keep up the great work I'm seeing on LinkedIn and that. The stuff that you're doing is fantastic and being your true self. But today you've been
thank you.
wonderful guest, so I really, really appreciate it. And this one, as we say, so it'll be nearer to Christmas time, but have a
Yes,
wonderful kind of Christmas
perfect.
break and have a great 2025 as well.
Amazing. Thank you. And you, and lovely to meet you. And I'm sure we'll do something again.
Lovely. Cheers, Kat.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Cheers. Take care. Bye.